The patrol ship moved slowly through the dark edge of space. It belonged to a powerful alien empire that controlled many systems. The crew had one simple job: to watch the border and stop anything unusual. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then a signal appeared on their scanners. "Unknown ship detected," one officer said. The commander leaned forward. "Show me." A small human vessel floated in the distance. It looked damaged. Its engines were weak, and its lights flickered like it would shut down at any moment. "A human ship?" the commander said with surprise. Out here, humans were not common in this region. They were known across the galaxy, but not feared. Most species believed humans were emotional, soft, and divided. "Scan for weapons," the commander ordered. "No heavy weapons found," the officer replied. "Low energy. It looks helpless." The commander smiled slightly. "Then this will be easy. Move closer." The patrol ship approached the drifting vessel. No response came from the human ship. No warning. No defense. "Send a message," the commander said. "Identify yourselves." Silence answered. The crew exchanged looks. "Strange," one of them whispered. The commander did not like silence, but he also saw opportunity. "Prepare boarding team," he said. "We take control." Within minutes, a group of armed soldiers entered the human ship. The doors opened with little resistance. Inside, the lights were dim. The air felt still and quiet. Too quiet. "Stay alert," the team leader said. They moved through narrow halls. The ship was clearly damaged, but not destroyed. Small objects floated in the air: books, toys, and soft clothing. One soldier stopped. "Commander, you need to see this." The team entered a large room. Anne froze. There were no soldiers. No adults. Only children. Small human children looked back at them with wide eyes. Some were scared. Some held each other. A few stood in front of the others, trying to protect them. The alien soldiers did not move for a moment. "Where are the adults?" one of them asked quietly. No answer came. The children said nothing. The team leader activated his communicator. "Commander, the ship is full of young humans. No adults found." There was a short silence on the other side. "Children," the commander repeated. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The commander leaned back in his chair, thinking. Children meant no threat. Children meant no danger. Children meant control. "Secure them," the commander said. "Bring them to the holding station." "But they are only—" "That is an order." The connection ended. The soldiers hesitated for a moment, then followed commands. They gently but firmly gathered the children. Some cried. Some stayed quiet. A few looked at the soldiers with strange calmness. One child spoke softly. "You should not do this." The soldier paused. "Why?" The child did not answer. Soon, all the children were moved onto the patrol ship. The human vessel was left behind, drifting in silence. Hours later, the patrol ship reached a nearby alien station. The children were placed inside secure containment rooms. Bright lights. Cold walls. No comfort. Scientists arrived quickly. They were curious. "Human young," one scientist said. "Very rare to see them alone." "They will be useful for study," another added. The commander watched through a glass screen. The children sat together in the corner of the room. They did not shout or fight. They simply stayed close. "They are harmless," the commander said. "Yes," a scientist replied. "Easy to control." Across the station, a small red light blinked on a hidden device. It was weak, almost broken, but still working. A signal began to send. Very slow, very faint, but real. Back inside the containment room, one child looked up at the ceiling. His face was calm. "They will come," he whispered. Another child looked at him. "Who?" He answered softly, "Home." Far away, across the deep dark of space, that weak signal traveled. It crossed empty systems. It passed silent stars. And it kept going. No alarms sounded on the station. No one noticed. The commander turned away from the glass, satisfied. "Prepare reports for the council," he said. "This is a small event. Nothing more." The scientists agreed. To them, it was just another capture. Just another experiment. Just another day. But they were wrong. Very wrong. Because far away, something had already heard the call. And humanity was now listening. Far away from the alien station, deep in human space, everything was calm. Ships moved along safe routes. Stations worked without trouble. People lived their daily lives without fear. There was no war, no panic, no danger. Then a small signal arrived. It was weak, almost broken, easy to miss, but not missed. Inside a quiet monitoring station, a young operator sat watching the screens. Most signals were normal: trade messages, ship updates, navigation data. Nothing unusual. Then one line of code blinked. He frowned. What is this? The signal was not clear. It came in pieces, broken and slow. But it had one important mark. A human emergency code. The operator sat up straight. This is not normal. He quickly cleaned the signal, fixing what he could. The message was still damaged, but one thing became clear. It came from deep space. From far beyond safe zones. His heart started to beat faster. Supervisor, he called. An older officer walked over. What is it? I think it's a distress signal. The officer looked at the screen. His expression changed. Play it. The sound that came through was weak, broken, but human. A small voice. A child's voice. Help, please. The room went silent. The operator whispered, Children? The officer did not reply. He turned and pressed a red button on the wall. Alert command. Within minutes, the station changed. Doors locked. Lights shifted. More officers entered the room. The signal was sent to higher command. No one spoke loudly. No one panicked. But everything moved faster. Very fast. Far above the planet, in a secure command center, top leaders gathered. They watched the signal play again and again. A child's voice. Lost. Afraid. Far from home. Location, one leader asked. Edge of known space. An officer replied. Near alien-controlled systems. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood. This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was a capture. One leader spoke slowly. Confirm if any ships are missing. Checking now. Seconds felt long. Then the answer came. A civilian transport ship. Last known report, carrying children to a new colony. Another silence. He continued. The ship disappeared 3 days ago. No one moved. No one needed to speak. They already knew the truth. The children were taken. A man standing at the center of the room closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his face was calm. Too calm. Send confirmation, he said. The signal played one more time. Help. That was enough. The man nodded once. Activate retrieval protocol. No alarm sounded. No shouting followed. Only quiet action. Orders moved across systems in seconds. Hidden fleets received commands. Ships changed direction. Some turned off their lights and vanished into the dark. Everything was controlled. Everything was precise. Back at the monitoring station, the young operator watched as data changed across the screen. So many ships, he whispered. The older officer placed a hand on his shoulder. You did your job. What happens now? The operator asked. The officer looked at the signal one last time. They're going to bring them home. The operator hesitated. And the ones who took them? The officer did not answer immediately. He watched as more signals moved across the system. Silent orders. Silent movement. Then he spoke quietly. They made a very bad mistake. Far away, near the alien-controlled region, space remained dark and empty. But something was moving. Human ships. Fast. Silent. Hidden. They did not send messages. They did not show warning lights. They did not ask questions. They only followed one signal. The voice of a child. Back on the alien station, nothing had changed. The commander reviewed reports. The scientists continued their work. The children remained inside their rooms. Quiet. Watching. Waiting. One guard stood near the door, looking at the group of children. He felt strange. They were not acting like prisoners. They were calm. Too calm. One small child looked up at him. "You can still let us go," the child said softly. The guard frowned. "Why would I do that?" The child answered, "Because they are coming." The guard gave a small laugh. "No one is coming." The child said nothing more. But far away, across the deep dark, something was already on its way. Not slowly, not uncertain, but with purpose, with focus, with cold, quiet anger. The signal continued to guide them. Closer, closer, and soon, very soon, they would arrive. The great council chamber was filled with light. Tall figures from many different worlds sat in a wide circle. Each one represented a powerful species. Some were large and heavy, others thin and tall, and a few did not even look solid at all. But all of them shared one thing: power. At the center of the chamber stood the commander who had captured the human children. He looked confident, proud. "This is a simple matter," he said. "A damaged human ship entered our space. We secured it. Inside, we found only children. No adults. No soldiers." Murmurs spread across the chamber. "Only children?" one council member asked. "Yes," the commander replied. "They are now safe and under control at our station." A few members leaned forward with interest. "Human children are rare to study," another said. "This could be useful." But not everyone looked pleased. An older council member spoke slowly. "You should not have taken them." The commander turned to him. "Why not?" "They were unprotected. Weak." The older one's voice remained calm. "Humans are not weak." Some members laughed softly. "They are divided," another said. "Always fighting among themselves." "Yes," someone else added. "They talk more than they act." The commander nodded. "Exactly. There is no threat here." The older member did not smile. "You are wrong." The room grew quieter. "I have seen what humans do," he continued. "They are peaceful until they are not." A few members exchanged looks, but most did not seem worried. "They will send a message," one said. "They will complain. That is all." "Yes," another agreed. "Maybe a small trade punishment. Nothing serious." The commander folded his arms. "We are strong. No one challenges us." The older member shook his head slightly. "This is not about strength. This is about their young." Still, the room did not take his warning seriously. At that moment, a signal officer stepped forward. "Council, we have detected unusual movement near our outer systems." The commander frowned. "What kind of movement?" "Unknown ships," the officer replied. "They are not sending identification." "How many?" The officer hesitated. "More than expected." A few council members looked at each other. "Probably traders," one said quickly. "Or lost vessels," another added. The commander waved his hand. "Send a warning signal. Tell them to identify themselves." "Yes, Commander." The officer stepped back, but the older council member kept watching. "Unidentified ships, near your borders, and you just captured human children," he said quietly. "This is not a coincidence." The commander's voice hardened. "You are overthinking." Minutes later, the officer returned. "They are not responding." The room became slightly tense. "No response?" the commander asked. "No signals. No movement away. They are just watching." A small silence followed. One council member laughed nervously. "Strange behavior." "Yes," another said, "but still no threat." The commander stood tall. "Prepare patrol ships. We will escort them out if needed." The officer nodded and left again. The older member spoke one more time. "Release the children. End this now." The commander turned sharply. "No." The word echoed in the chamber. "They are valuable," he continued. "And there is no proof that humans will act." The older member leaned back slowly. "You are making a mistake." The commander ignored him. Hours passed. More reports came in. More ships. Still silent. Still watching. No attacks. No messages. Just presence. The council began to feel uneasy. "Why are they not speaking?" one member asked. "This is not normal," another said. The commander's confidence started to crack, just a little. "It does not matter." They cannot act without warning. But even as he spoke, another officer rushed into the chamber. Emergency report. All eyes turned. Multiple systems near our border have gone dark, the officer said. Dark? The commander repeated. No communication. No signals. No response. The room fell silent. That is impossible, someone whispered. The older council member closed his eyes for a moment. It has started, he said softly. The commander stepped forward. Started? What has started? The older member looked directly at him. You took their children. No one laughed this time. Far away, in the darkness between stars, human ships moved silently. They did not rush. They did not waste energy. They moved with purpose. Every action planned. Every step controlled. Back on the station, the children sat together. Quiet.
Calm.
One of them looked toward the ceiling again.
They heard us, he said.
Another child nodded. Yes. A third child smiled slightly. They're close. Back in the council chamber, fear slowly began to grow. Not loud, not clear, but real. The commander stood still, trying to hold control. But deep inside, a question had already formed. What if the warning was true? And for the first time, no one in the room had an answer. The edge of alien space had always been quiet. Stars burned slowly in the distance. Trade routes passed through without trouble. Patrol ships moved in calm patterns, watching, scanning, reporting. Nothing ever changed. Until now. One patrol ship drifted near a borderline. Its crew focused on their usual tasks. The commander stood behind them, watching the main screen. Report, he said. Sector is clear, an officer replied. No threats detected. The commander nodded. Maintain position. Seconds passed. Then the screen flickered. A new signal appeared. Unknown. The officer frowned. Commander, we have something. Show me. The screen zoomed in. A dark shape stood far away, almost hidden in the black of space. It did not move. It did not shine. It simply existed. What is that? The commander asked. No signal. No identification, the officer replied. It just appeared. Impossible, another crew member said. Nothing appears like that. The commander narrowed his eyes. Scan it. Scanning. The result came back quickly. Reading is unclear. The shape is large. How large? The officer hesitated. Larger than our ship. The room grew quiet. Send a message, the commander ordered. Identify yourself. A signal was sent. No reply came. The dark shape did not move. It did not react. It only watched. The commander felt something strange in his chest. Move closer, he said. The patrol ship slowly approached the unknown object. As the distance closed, the shape became clearer.
It was a ship.
A human ship. But it did not look like any human ship they had seen before. It was smooth, silent, and dark. No bright lights. No visible weapons. No markings. Just a shadow in space. Why is it not responding? One officer whispered. The commander tried to stay calm. Send another message. Again, no answer. The human ship remained still. Watching. Waiting. Then, without warning, a second signal appeared. Another ship, behind the first one, and then a third. The officers stared at the screen. Commander, more are coming. The commander's voice dropped. How many? Unknown. They are appearing one by one. The room felt colder. This is not normal, one officer said. The commander clenched his jaw. Hold position. Do not fire. More ships appeared. Each one silent. Each one still. They did not move closer. They did not attack. They only stayed at the edge of sensor range, like shadows. Watching. Back at the Alien Council, reports started to arrive. Multiple unidentified ships at border sectors. No communication. No aggression. Just presence. The council members shifted in their seats. This is getting strange, one said. The older member spoke quietly. They are here. The commander, now connected through a live feed, spoke firmly. They have done nothing. We still have control. Do you? The older one asked. The commander did not answer. Back at the station where the children were held, guards stood near the containment room. They had received the same reports. Unknown ships.
Silent.
Watching. One guard looked through the glass. The children were sitting together again.
Calm. Quiet. Too calm.
One of them looked up at him. "They're here," the child said. The guard felt a chill. "No, they are far away." The child shook his head slowly. "Closer than you think." The guard stepped back. He did not like the way the child spoke. Not afraid. Not angry. Just certain. Back at the border, the patrol ship remained still. Surrounded. Not attacked. Not touched. But no longer alone. The commander stared at the human ships. His mind raced. Why no attack? Why no message? What were they waiting for? Then one officer spoke in a low voice. "Commander, we are being scanned." "By how many?" "All of them." The commander's hands tightened. "Do not react," he said. But inside, something had changed. This was not a normal situation. This was not a simple warning. This was something else. Something controlled. Something planned. The human ship stayed in place.
Silent.
Unmoving. Like shadows before storm. And deep in space, beyond even these ships, more were coming. Faster. Stronger.
Hidden.
Back in the council chamber, no one laughed anymore. The room was quiet. Heavy. The older member looked around at the others. "You still have time," he said. "Release the children." No one spoke. The commander looked at the screen again. At the silent ships. At the growing darkness. And for the first time, he began to understand. This was not fear. This was not a threat. This was a warning. And they had already ignored it. Far away, inside the human fleet, no voices were raised. No anger was shown. Only one goal existed. Bring them home. And anyone who stood in the way would not be given a second warning. At first, nothing exploded. No planets burned. No fleets clashed. But something far more dangerous began to happen. Silence. Across the alien empire, small things started to go wrong. A trade ship failed to report. Then another. Then a full convoy disappeared between two systems. No distress call. No wreckage. Nothing. Just gone. At a busy space station, workers waited for incoming cargo. The time passed. The ships never arrived. "Delay?" one worker asked. "No signal at all," the controller replied. "It's like they vanished." This was not normal. But still, the leaders tried to stay calm. "Probably a system error," they said. "Maybe a navigation failure." Excuses spread quickly. But deep down, fear began to grow. In another system, a communication tower suddenly went dark. Technicians rushed to fix it, but there was nothing to repair. The system was simply off, like someone had quietly turned it down. No alarms. No damage. Just silence. Reports flooded the council. Multiple missing ships. Lost communication in key areas. Unknown interference. The council chamber filled again, but this time, the mood was different. No one smiled. No one laughed. The commander stood at the center, his face serious. "This is controlled," he said. "Not random." The older council member nodded slowly. "Yes. They are cutting us off," another member said. "But why no attack?" someone asked. The older one answered. "Because they don't need to." The room went quiet. Far out in space, human ships moved like ghosts. They did not rush. They did not waste energy. They simply appeared where they needed to be. A trade route here. A communication relay there. Each time, the result was the same. Silence. A human ship would arrive, scan the area, and within minutes, the system would go dark. No explosions. No violence. Just control. Back on the alien station, the commander received more updates. "Outer systems are failing," an officer said. "How many?" the commander asked. "Too many." The commander looked at the map. Small lights blinked out one by one. It was slow, but steady. "They are surrounding us," he said quietly. At the containment area, the guards were no longer relaxed. They watched the children closely. But the children were not afraid. They sat together, whispering softly. One guard stepped closer. "Why are you not scared?" A small child looked up. "Because we know what happens next." The guard frowned. And what is that? The child answered simply, they take us home. The guard felt uneasy. And us? The child did not reply. That silence felt heavier than any words. Back at the border, the patrol ships were still surrounded by human vessels. Nothing had changed. No shots fired. No movement. But now the alien crews understood something. They were not being attacked. They were being watched, studied, measured. One officer whispered, they could destroy us anytime. The commander did not deny it. Yes, he said. But they are waiting. For what? The commander looked at the screen, at the silent human ships. For the right moment. Back in the council chamber, tension filled the air. We must act, one member shouted. Send our fleets. And fight what? Another replied. We don't even understand what they are doing. They are weakening us, someone else said. System by system. The older member spoke again. Release the children. All eyes turned to him. It is not too late, he continued. End this before it becomes war. The commander stood still. His mind was no longer calm. Reports kept coming. More silence. More lost systems. More missing ships. This was not chaos. This was a plan. A perfect plan. They are not angry, the older member said quietly. They are focused. The commander closed his eyes for a moment. Then opened them again. What if we release them now? One council member asked. Will it stop this? No one answered. Because no one knew. Far away, deep in the darkness, a massive human fleet moved forward. Unlike the silent border ships, these were different. Larger. Stronger. Ready. They moved without fear. Without hesitation. Each ship followed a single command. Not revenge. Not destruction. But something colder. Something more final. Back on the alien station, lights flickered for a brief second. The commander looked up. What was that? Power fluctuation, an officer said. Minor. But the commander did not feel safe. Something was changing. Something was coming closer. Back in the containment room, one child stood up and looked toward the door. They're near, he said softly. The other children looked up.
Calm. Certain.
Waiting. Across the alien empire, silence continued to spread.
System by system.
Ship by ship. Until even the strongest leaders began to understand. This was not the start of war. This was the end of control. And soon, the real attack would begin. The alien station was no longer calm. For the first time in many cycles, fear moved through its halls. Guards walked faster. Officers spoke in low voices. Screens showed broken signals and dark systems across the empire. Everything felt unstable. Inside the control room, the commander stood still, staring at the main display. One system after another had gone silent. No explosions, no battles, he said quietly. Just gone. An officer nodded. Yes, Commander. It is like they are removing us piece by piece. The commander's hands tightened behind his back. Where are their main forces? Unknown. We only see the outer ships. That answer made it worse. Because if those silent ships were only the outer layer, then what was still hidden? Far away from the control room, deep inside the station, the human children remained locked in their containment area. But something had changed. The air felt different. The lights flickered again, very briefly, then returned to normal. A guard noticed it. Power issue again? Another guard shook his head. System says everything is stable. But it did not feel stable. Not anymore. Inside the room, the children sat close together. No one cried. No one shouted. They were waiting. One small boy stood near the door, looking at the faint reflection in the metal surface. They're here, he said softly. A girl beside him whispered. Now. He nodded once. Soon. Outside, the guards shifted nervously. Why do they keep saying that? One asked. I don't know, the other replied. But I don't like it. Back in the control room, a sudden alert appeared. Commander. He turned quickly. Report. Station sensors are detecting unknown signals inside our range. The commander's eyes widened. Inside? That's not possible. They were not there before. Now they are. How many? The officer hesitated. We can't tell, they are not clear. The commander stepped forward. Show me. The display flickered. Small marks appeared across the station grid, moving
slowly.
Are those ships? The commander asked. No, too small. A cold silence filled the room. Then another officer spoke, voice low. They're already here. The commander's heart beat harder. How did they get past our defenses? No one answered, because no one knew. Suddenly, the lights across the station dimmed for a second, then came back, then dimmed again, this time longer. Power fluctuation spreading, an officer reported. Fix it, the commander ordered. We're trying, but systems are not responding. Deep in the station corridors, doors began to lock and unlock on their own. Screens turned off. Alarms tried to activate, but failed. Everything was breaking. Not violently, but perfectly, like someone knew exactly where to touch. Back at the containment room, the guards looked around as the lights flickered again. What is happening? One asked. Before the other could answer, the door unlocked.
A soft sound. Click.
Both guards froze. We didn't open that, one whispered. Slowly, the door slid open. Darkness waited outside. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. One guard raised his weapon. Stay back. Nothing moved. Then, from the darkness, a figure stepped forward. A human, wearing dark armor. Face hidden.
Silent.
The guards reacted instantly. Stop. But before they could act, everything went black. Their weapons shut down. Their systems failed. They dropped to the floor, not dead, but unable to move. The human soldier stepped inside. Then another. And another. They moved fast. Precise. No wasted motion. Inside the room, the children stood up. No fear. Only calm. One of the soldiers removed their helmet. A simple face. Tired eyes. But steady. We're here, he said quietly. The children did not run. They did not cry. They simply walked toward the soldiers. Are we going home? One child asked. The soldier nodded. Yes. Behind him, more soldiers secured the area. They checked every corner, every door. Zone clear, one said. Move to extraction point, another replied. Everything was calm, controlled. Like this was not a rescue, but a planned return. Back in the control room, alarms finally activated. Security breach. Multiple intrusions. The commander shouted. Where? Everywhere. The display showed movement across the station. Small units.
Fast. Silent.
Human forces inside the station, an officer said, voice shaking. The commander stepped back. They're already here. He remembered the silent ships. The lost systems. The warnings. Too late. Back in the corridor, the human soldiers moved with the children. No rushing. No panic. Just direction. One child looked up at the soldier beside him. You took your time, he said. The soldier gave a small, tired smile. We had to make sure it was safe. The child nodded. I knew you would come. The soldier did not answer. He didn't need to, because now everyone knew. This was never a rescue attempt. This was a certainty. Across the station, alien forces tried to respond. But nothing worked. Doors failed. Weapons shut down. Systems went dark. And through it all, the human soldiers kept moving. Closer to the exit. Closer to home. And for the alien empire, this was the moment everything truly began to fall apart. The alien station was no longer in control. Lights flickered across every corridor. Doors opened and closed without command. Security systems failed one after another. What was once a strong and secure place now felt weak and exposed. Inside the control room, the commander stood frozen for a moment, staring at the chaos on the screens. Report, he shouted. We are losing all systems, an officer replied quickly. Internal control is gone. We can't track the intruders. How many are inside? The commander asked. We don't know. They move too fast. The commander clenched his jaw. Send all available guards. Stop them. Yes, Commander. But even as the order was given, something strange became clear. The human forces were not attacking everything. They were not destroying the station. They were not killing anyone. They were moving with purpose.
Direct.
Focused.
Precise.
Back in the lower corridors, human soldiers guided the children through the station. Their steps were quick, but controlled. Every corner was checked. Every movement was planned. Path is clear, one soldier said through a quiet signal. Continue, another replied. The children walked between them, calm and silent. Some looked around with curiosity. Others stayed, close to the soldiers. A young child looked up at one of them. Is it over? The soldier shook his head slightly. Not yet. Behind them, more human units moved through other parts of the station. They disabled systems, blocked reinforcements, and secured key areas. Not a single shot was wasted. Not a single move was random. It was not chaos. It was control. Back in the control room, another officer rushed in. Commander, outer defenses are down. What? The commander turned sharply. All station weapons are offline. We cannot fire on anything outside. The commander stared at the screen. How is that possible? They shut everything down before we even noticed. The room went silent again. Then another report came. Multiple human ships are now moving closer to the station. The commander felt a cold weight in his chest. They waited, he said quietly. They waited until we were blind. Outside the station, the silent human ships finally moved. Slow at first, then steady. They did not rush forward like attackers. They moved like something that already owned the space. Large ships came into view, dark and powerful. No lights, no signals, just silent strength. Alien defense ships tried to respond, but their systems failed. Weapons would not activate. Engines slowed. Communication broke. One alien pilot shouted, "We can't fight. Nothing is working." Another voice answered, "Pull back." But there was nowhere to go, because the humans had already surrounded everything. Back inside the station, the commander felt the truth settle in. This was planned, he said. Every step, every moment. They had not come to fight. They had come to end control. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the station. Not an explosion, but something heavy. Something breaking. What was that? An officer asked. Docking impact, another replied. Human ships are attaching to the station. The commander's eyes widened. They're bringing more forces in. Fear spread across the room. Not panic, but deep, quiet fear. Because now there was no doubt. They were inside, and more were coming. Back in the corridor, the rescue team reached a secured door. Extraction point ahead, one soldier said. Another stepped forward and placed a small device on the door. A soft click. The door opened. Beyond it was a docking bay. Dark. Empty. Waiting. A human ship stood there, connected to the station. Its surface was smooth and black, like the others. Move, the lead soldier said. The children walked forward without hesitation. One by one, they entered the ship. Safe. Secure. Home. The soldiers followed behind, still watching every direction. Area secure. One confirmed. Back in the control room, the final report came in. Commander, the children. He did not need to hear the rest. They're gone, he said. No one spoke, because everyone already knew. The commander slowly sat down. They didn't attack us, he said. They didn't destroy us. He looked at the dark screen in front of him. They just took what was theirs. Silence filled the room. Outside, the human ships remained in place. But now, they were different. They were no longer just watching. They were ready, because the mission had changed. The children were safe. And now, there was nothing holding them back. Back inside the human ship, one child looked out through a small window at the alien station. It's over, the child said. A soldier standing nearby replied quietly. No. The child looked up at him. The soldier's voice was calm. Now it begins. And, across the dark space around the station, the first real strike was about to start. The alien station was now quiet. Too quiet. Not because everything was normal, but because everything had stopped working at once. Systems failed in layers, one after another, like a carefully built structure being removed piece by piece. The commander stood in the control room, staring at the dark screens. No data. No reports. No control. For the first time in his life, he felt helpless. "What is happening outside?" he asked. No one answered immediately. Then an officer spoke slowly. "We are cut off." "From what?" the commander snapped. "From everything." A heavy silence filled the room. Outside the station, human ships surrounded the area completely. They did not fire. They did not move aggressively. They simply held position, like a wall made of steel and shadow. Inside one of those ships, the rescued children sat safely. Warm light filled the room. Medical staff checked them carefully. Food and water were given. No one was rushed. A child looked around slowly. "Are we really safe now?" A calm soldier nodded.
Yes.
"You're safe." The child stayed quiet for a moment, then asked, "What about them?" The soldier understood. "The ones who took you," he said. The child nodded. The soldier's face remained calm. "They will answer for what they did." Back inside the alien station, panic was starting to rise. Reports came in broken pieces. External weapons offline. Internal control failing. Docking bays taken. Unknown forces controlling access points. The commander listened, but each report felt less useful than the last. It was like watching an empire disappear in real time. Then something changed. A new message appeared on the main screen. It was not a warning. It was not a demand. It was a file. The commander opened it. At first, it showed nothing but human records. Old records. Very old. He frowned. "What is this?" The officer leaned closer. "Historical data?" The screen shifted. Images appeared. Human children. Families. Civilian colonies. Then attacks. Not from humans. From others. Species that had once believed humans were weak. Each image told the same story. Someone took human children. And then, that species disappeared. The commander's eyes narrowed. "What is this trying to show us?" The system continued. More records. More cases. Everyone the same. A pattern. Take human children. Face extinction. The room went silent. Even the officers stopped moving. One whispered, This is not coincidence." The older council member, watching through the communication link, spoke softly. "It is history." The commander turned. "Explain." The older member's voice was calm. "Humans do not start wars often.
They trade.
They build. They stay silent." He paused. "But when their children are taken," his voice lowered. "They do not stop." Silence filled both rooms. Back in the human fleet, preparations were complete. Ships aligned into formation. Not chaotic. Not rushed. Perfectly organized. Each ship knew its role. No confusion. No hesitation. A senior human officer stood on the command deck of the lead ship. He looked at the station ahead. "The children are safe," he said. A confirmation came back instantly. "All confirmed." The officer nodded once. "Then proceed." But still no weapons fired. Not yet. Inside the alien station, the commander finally asked the question he had avoided. "How many human ships are there?" The officer checked the scans. He hesitated. "Too many." "That is not an answer," the commander said sharply. The officer swallowed. "We cannot count them accurately. They are spread across multiple systems." The commander froze slightly. "Multiple systems?" "Yes." The older council member spoke again. "You are not facing a fleet." The commander looked at the screen. "You are facing a response." Outside, the human ships began to move closer. Still no firing. Still no destruction. But pressure increased. The station's outer shields flickered. Systems struggled. Then a new transmission came through. A human voice.
Clear. Calm.
No anger. Only certainty. "You took what was not yours." The commander stepped forward. "This is a misunderstanding." No reply came immediately. Then the voice continued. "You took children." A pause. "That is not a misunderstanding." The room felt colder. Even the air seemed heavier. Back in the human ship carrying the rescued children, one boy watched the screen showing the alien station. A soldier stood nearby. The boy asked quietly, "Are they scared?" The soldier looked at the screen. "Yes," he said. The boy nodded. "Good." The soldier looked at him. The child's voice was soft. "They should be." Outside, the human fleet finally shifted into final position. Not attacking.
Not yet.
But ready. Because everyone now understood the truth. This was not a rescue anymore. Not a warning. Not even a war. It was judgment. And judgment, once delivered, does not repeat itself. The alien empire had faced wars before. It had defeated strong enemies. It had survived invasions, rebellions, and system collapses. It believed it could handle anything. But this was different. This was not a war that arrived all at once. This was a system that was slowly breaking apart. Quietly.
System by system.
The commander stood in the ruined control room of the station. Screens flickered weakly. Emergency lights turned the walls red. "We are losing control everywhere," an officer said. The commander did not respond immediately. He was watching the main display. More and more sectors were turning dark. Not destroyed. Not bombed. Just silent. Like they had been erased from existence. "This is impossible," he finally said. "No, Commander," the officer replied. "It is happening." Outside the station, human ships moved with calm precision. They were not rushing in. They were not attacking randomly. They were controlling space like it already belonged to them. Every time an alien system tried to respond, it failed. Weapon systems would not activate. Communication networks collapsed. Even backup systems stopped working. It was not chaos. It was control. Back inside the station, panic slowly grew among the crew. "Report from Outer Fleet," one officer shouted. "What is it?" the commander asked. "They are retreating." "Retreating?" the commander repeated. The officer nodded quickly. "They say they cannot fight. Their systems are not responding." The commander slammed his fist on the console. "This is sabotage." But even as he said it, he knew it was not simple sabotage. It was too clean, too perfect, too complete. Across multiple systems, alien fleets tried to regroup. But everywhere they turned, human ships were already there. Silent. Waiting. And whenever they tried to engage, nothing worked. Engine power dropped. Weapons shut down. Navigation systems froze. It was like fighting an enemy that had already removed your ability to fight. In one sector, an alien captain shouted into his communicator. "Why are we blind?" No answer came. His ship drifted powerless. Then a human ship appeared nearby. It did not fire. It did not approach aggressively. It simply stayed there, watching. The alien crew froze. One soldier whispered, "They could end us right now." But the human ship did nothing. And that was what terrified them most. Back at the main station, the commander received another update. Internal systems failing. Docking control lost. Security grids offline. Entire sections under unknown control. He slowly turned away from the screen. "They are not just outside," he said quietly. "They are inside everything." The older council member's voice came through the communication link. "Yes." The commander looked up.
"How?"
The older member replied, "Because you underestimated them." A pause. "You thought taking their children would bring a reaction." The commander's voice was low. "It did." "Yes," the older member said. "But not the kind you expected." Outside the station, human fleets tightened their formation. Each ship moved into exact positions. No confusion. No hesitation. Every movement was calculated. And then something changed. A signal spread across all human ships.
Short.
Simple. A single command. Inside one of the lead ships, the captain stood still. He looked at the display showing the alien station. "The last phase is ready," an officer said. The captain nodded. "Begin." At first, nothing changed. Then, across multiple systems, something activated. Not weapons firing wildly. Not explosions. But a coordinated shutdown of alien defense networks. Every remaining active system began to fail at once. Energy grids collapsed. Shield systems went dark. Communication lines cut off completely. It was like watching a giant body lose its ability to move. The alien commander felt it in real time. "This is the end of our control," he whispered. An officer looked at him. "What do we do?" The commander hesitated. For the first time, he had no answer. Back inside the human ship carrying the children, the atmosphere was calm. One child looked at a screen showing the collapsing alien defenses. "It's falling," he said quietly. A soldier beside him nodded. "Yes." The child asked, "Will they fight back now?" The soldier looked at him. "No," he said. The child frowned. "Why not?" The soldier answered simply. "Because they can't." Outside, more alien systems failed. One by one, sector by sector, fleet by fleet. Not through destruction, but through removal of control. The alien empire was still standing, but only on the outside. Inside, it was already breaking apart. The commander looked around his control room. Everything was failing. Everything he trusted was gone. And for the first time, he understood the truth completely. This was not an attack. This was dismantling. And it had already gone too far to stop. Far away, human ships continued their silent advance. No celebration. No emotion. Only purpose. Because for them, this was not victory yet. It was only the beginning of the fall. The alien station was collapsing in control, but not in structure. Walls still stood. Corridors were still intact. Lights still flickered weakly through emergency systems. But power, authority, command, all of it was gone. And now, only one objective remained: the children. Inside the station corridors, human soldiers moved with calm precision. Every step was planned. Every turn was checked. They did not rush, even though time was short. "Level secured," one soldier reported through a quiet channel. "Proceed to final containment zone," came the reply. At the front of the group, a lead soldier held his weapon low. Not ready for battle. Not pointed at anyone. Because there was no battle left here. Only a mission. Behind him, two soldiers guided the rescued children through the dim hallway. The children stayed close together. Some held hands. Some looked around at the strange station that had held them captive. One child whispered, "It feels different now." A soldier beside him answered gently, "It is safe now." The child looked up. All of it. The soldier paused, then nodded. Yes. At the same time, deep in another part of the station, alien guards tried to regroup. But nothing worked properly anymore. Weapon systems were dead. Doors were opening and closing without command. Communications were broken. One guard shouted, "We are being locked out of our own systems." Another answered, "It is not just outside control, it is internal." Fear spread quickly among them, but there was no direction left. No command structure. No leadership that could respond. Back in the main control room, the commander stood silently. Around him, officers watched screens that showed failure after failure. "We have lost all strategic zones," one officer said. "We cannot reach the containment area anymore," another added. The commander closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was low. "Then it is already over." Outside the station, human ships maintained their positions. No firing. No movement forward. Just containment. But inside, the rescue team had reached the final sector. A large sealed door stood in front of them. "This is it," one soldier said. "Child holding area confirmed," another replied. The lead soldier placed a small device on the door. A soft light scanned the structure. Then, click. The door unlocked. It opened slowly. Inside was a large room. And, in the center, the children. Dozens of them. All alive. All waiting. For a moment, everything stopped. The soldiers did not move immediately. Not because they were unsure, but because they were careful. One soldier stepped forward slowly. "It's okay," he said softly. "We are here." A few children stood up. One of them asked, "Are you really here for us?" The soldier nodded. "Yes." Another child asked, "Will you take us home?" The soldier looked at all of them. "Yes," he said again. That single word broke the silence. Some children moved forward slowly. Others stayed close to each other. But no one was afraid anymore. Because the waiting was over. Back in the station control room, alarms suddenly triggered again. But this time they were different. Not warning alarms. Not system failures. But final transfer alerts. The containment zone has been breached, an officer said. The commander looked at the screen.
He saw it.
The children. Moving.
Free.
He said nothing for a moment. Then quietly he asked, "How did it become this?" No one answered. Because the answer was already clear. They had taken the children. And everything after that had followed like a storm that could not be stopped. In the rescue room, the soldiers began guiding the children out. "Stay close," one said. "We are moving to extraction point." The children followed without resistance. Some looked back at the empty cells behind them. One child whispered, "Never again." A soldier heard him and simply replied, "Never again." Outside the station, human ships adjusted positions slightly. A docking corridor opened. A massive human transport ship was already attached to the station. Ready. Waiting. Inside, the rescue team moved steadily toward it. No chaos. No panic. Just controlled movement. At the extraction point, the ship's ramp was open. Bright light filled the doorway. One by one, the children stepped inside. Warmth replaced cold metal. Safety replaced fear. A soldier watched them board. His voice came through the channel. All children accounted for. A pause. Extraction complete. Inside the alien station, the commander heard the report. And for the first time since this began, he felt something he had not expected. Not anger. Not resistance. But final understanding. This was not just a rescue. It was the end of their control over everything. Outside, the human fleet remained silent. But now it was no longer waiting. It had completed its first purpose. And what came next was no longer about rescue at all. The alien station was no longer a place of control. It was a place of waiting. Waiting for what came next. The humans had already taken the children. The rescue was complete. But the fleet outside did not leave. It stayed in position, silent and steady, like a wall that could not be crossed. Inside the station, systems still flickered weakly. Emergency lights painted the corridors in dull red. Broken alarms tried to activate but failed again and again. The commander stood in the control room. His officers were silent now. No one was shouting orders anymore. No one was suggesting solutions. Because there were none left. On the main screen, the human fleet was visible. Large.
Silent.
Unmoving. Like a judgment waiting to be delivered. "They are not leaving," one officer said quietly. The commander did not answer at first. Then he said, "They are deciding." "Deciding what?" the officer asked. The commander looked at the screen. "Our end or our survival." A long silence followed. Inside the human command ship, everything was calm. The rescued children were safe in medical sections. They were being checked, fed, and comforted. No harm was left untreated. No fear was ignored. A soldier stood near a glass panel watching them. "They are stable," a medical officer said. The soldier nodded slightly. "Good." The officer hesitated. "What about the station?" The soldier did not answer immediately. Then he said, "That is not your concern anymore." At the same time, inside the Alien Council, panic was no longer hidden. Leaders who once laughed now sat in silence. Some stared at the data feeds. Others avoided eye contact. The older council member stood calmly. "I warned you," he said softly. No one replied. The commander's voice came through the channel. "This can still end without destruction," he said. The human response arrived moments later. A single message.
Clear. Cold.
"You had that chance." The room went still. The commander felt his chest tighten. "They're not speaking like traitors," he said. An officer replied, "No, Commander, they're speaking like something final." Outside, the human fleet shifted slightly. Not attacking yet, but preparing. Every ship aligned into perfect formation. Every system checked. Every command confirmed. Inside the lead human ship, the captain stood at the center of the bridge. "All evacuation confirmed," an officer said. "All children secured," another added. The captain nodded once. Then he turned toward the main display. The alien station. Still standing. Still active. but no longer in control of anything. The captain spoke calmly. Final message. A transmission was opened. Across all channels, it reached the alien station. Every screen flickered. Every system that still worked displayed the same message. The commander read it. You took what was not yours. You ignored warning. You chose control over mercy. A pause. Now you will understand consequence. The commander closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was quiet. This is not negotiation anymore. An officer asked, Then what is it? The commander did not answer immediately, because deep down he already knew. Back in the human ship, the children were being moved into safer quarters. One child looked up at a soldier. Are they going to hurt us again? He asked. The soldier shook his head.
No.
The child hesitated. Why not? The soldier looked toward the station outside. Because they understand now. The child did not fully understand. But he felt something different. Not fear. Not danger. Something final. Back in the alien station, the commander made a last attempt. Send surrender signal, he ordered. The officer hesitated. Commander, do it. A weak transmission was sent. It crossed space. It reached the human fleet. And it was received. Inside the human command ship, the message appeared. Surrender request. The bridge was silent. All eyes turned to the captain. He read it carefully. Then he spoke. They waited until there was no choice. He paused. Now there is no choice for us either. An officer asked, Orders? The captain looked at the station and answered, Judgment. The words spread across the fleet. Quiet. Controlled. Final. No celebration followed. No anger was shown. Only execution of a plan that had already been decided long ago. Outside the alien station, human ships began their final positioning. Energy systems activated, but not for random destruction. For precise, controlled removal of remaining hostile infrastructure. Inside the station, the commander watched in silence. He understood now. This was not revenge. It was correction. And corrections do not stop halfway. Back in the human ship, a child looked out one last time at the station. It looks small now, he said. A soldier standing beside him replied softly. It always was. The child looked up. And now? The soldier looked forward. Now it ends. Outside, the human fleet completed its final alignment. And for the first time since this began, the silence turned into action. The silence after judgment was heavier than any explosion. Space around the alien station was no longer chaotic. There were no alarms, no panic signals, no desperate calls for help. Only quiet control remained. The human fleet held position for a short moment after the final command. Then everything slowed. Not stopped, but settled. Inside the alien station, power systems flickered one last time before stabilizing into minimal survival mode. The structure was still intact, but its empire inside it was gone. The commander stood in the control room. He was no longer giving orders. No one was. Around him, officers waited, but there was nothing left to do. Every system that mattered was already taken away from their control. One officer finally spoke in a low voice. It is over. The commander did not reply immediately. He looked at the screen. The human fleet was still there.
Strong. Silent.
But not attacking anymore. After a long moment, the commander said quietly, No, it ended the moment we took them. No one argued, because deep down everyone understood it now. This was not the end of a battle. It was the result of a decision made days ago. Across the human fleet, operations continued with calm precision. The rescued children were being transferred to a medical transport vessel. Warm lighting filled the rooms. Soft voices guided them. Food, care, and safety were given without delay. A child stood near a window and looked out at the station slowly drifting in the distance. It looks broken now, he said softly. A nearby soldier replied, It is not broken. It is finished. The child stayed quiet for a moment, then asked, Will they come again? The soldier shook his head. Not like this. The child looked down. Because of us? The soldier crouched slightly to meet his eyes. Because of what they chose, he said. The child nodded slowly, even if he did not fully understand. Back at the alien station, emergency councils had collapsed into silence. No one was debating anymore.
No one was arguing.
Some were staring at reports. Others were simply sitting still. The older council member stood alone near the communication link. He looked at the commander. "You still think this was war?" he asked softly. The commander answered, "What else would you call it?" The older member's voice remained calm. "A warning you refused to hear." A long pause followed. Then the older member added, "And a truth you will never forget." Outside the station, human ships began to withdraw slowly. Not in retreat, but in completion. Each formation shifted with perfect coordination. No chaos. No rush. Every movement was planned and final. One by one, ships turned away from the station. But they did not leave the system completely. They left a presence behind. A reminder. A boundary that would never be crossed again. Inside the lead human ship, the captain stood alone on the bridge. The mission reports were complete. All children safe. All targets secured. All systems stabilized. An officer asked, "What about the station?" The captain looked at the distant structure, then answered simply, "They will remember." The officer nodded. No further questions were needed, because everyone already understood the lesson that had been written across the stars. In the alien station, the commander finally sat down, not as a leader, but as someone who had seen the end of his control. He spoke one last time, almost to himself. "We thought they were soft." No one responded. He continued quietly, "But they only protect what matters most." Silence filled the room. Far away, the human fleet carried the children home. Inside the transport ship, the children slept safely for the first time in days. No fear remained in their faces, only exhaustion and peace. A soldier stood near them, watching quietly. Another asked, "Do you think the galaxy will change now?" The soldier did not answer immediately. He looked at the stars outside, then said, "It already has." And in that moment, far across the systems, every species that had heard what happened understood one simple truth. Humans were not the strongest because of their weapons, not the fastest because of their ships, not the largest because of their empire. They were something else. They were the species that never forgave harm done to their children. And now, that truth had been proven again. The fleet finally disappeared into the distance, carrying the rescued children safely home. Behind them, the alien station remained silent in space, a monument not to victory, but to consequence. And across the galaxy, no one would ever make the same mistake again.